It's been a minute. Talk to me, peeps. Let me know if you can hear me. Sound check one. You know what? I tore apart this crap room this weekend, so making sure the setup still works and all of that business. How y'all doing? Happy New Year. Let me roll through here, Braveheart. Good evening, sir. Carlos, H2 Aquatics, Rusty's B, Seth, Fragadelic. Oh, what's up, Lynn? OG, DC, or the DMV Silverback, either way. How you doing, Bert? Texan, Taylor. What up, Bruce? Mother, Father. What's up, Troy? There we go. Loud and clear. Thank you, sir. First, I already said it. Happy New Year. Hope you all had a safe and fun holiday. We just wrapped up a little bit of post-Christmas, surprisingly freezing our butts off, chilling in the driveway with the parentals. Had a little Chick-fil-A. Boy, that macaroni and cheese is good. Oh, I shouldn't be eating that. And exchanged gifts. I got a cool book. Looking forward to reading that. And I got a little change in my pocket. Don't jingling, you know what I'm saying? Because I do a roll. But that was good. A little overdue. Whatever. I'm still hiding. I still respect what's going on out there. So we don't get together. And then, what else? Got a new camera for Christmas. Not this one. That one is an A6000 with a pancake lens. Got a 6100 for use. My daggum buttons keep hitting. For use downstairs. The Nikon's getting a little old, and I still like it. It's got a 90 mil prime, macro prime hanging off that thing, and I really do enjoy shooting with that. Whatever. It's a nice big camera. It feels good in my hand, but maybe a little more than I need. So I take, this thing has a battery grip on it, the 6000. Maybe I take that off and put it on the 6100. Maybe I just get another one because I like that battery grip. Let's see. I'm not, it's my lighting, Lynn. I've been mostly drinking water. Especially after 2 weeks ago, that stream. I suppose I could change my lighting or change the color on here. Maybe it's the hat. My Sanibel C School. The red in my hat bringing out that, what do you call it? The Asian glow. Seth, yeah, I've been playing with this stream mic or Podcast Pro. This thing is, I kind of like it. It doesn't isolate right, so if I tap on the table, you're going to hear that through the arm. That's not that big of a deal. And I've got that hooked up to a Steinberg UR22 Mark II. And it seems to be working out pretty well. Plus, I stole the boy's Blue Yeti, and I wanted to give that back to him. If you hear any of that kid, he's downstairs gaming like he does. And he's loud. And I don't know why he needs to be loud. He's got that, whatever. That's how he rolls. And that's fine. So if you hear any yelling, the dogs are not eating my child. He's just gaming. He's doing a little shooter action. Yeah, Seth, you didn't, not last week, week before. I took a week off. That was a little ridiculous. That was a one-time good deal. That was it. No biggie, but that was it. I wasn't able to form sentences correctly. And this red that you see here, which is because of the lighting, I could bring that up a little bit and make it blue. That was official. It was entirely too much gin, so that was fun. Cool. I appreciate the feedback, Fragadelic, that the sound is a little cleaner. Hopefully so. This was a relatively inexpensive XLR mic, and whatever. It works. I like the arm better, too. The arm's much cleaner. Room changes. I mentioned it earlier. We cleared out this whole room, and there was a wood floor here. I didn't like the way it looked. It was sloppy and something, whatever. The wood moved. So pulled it all up, put it all back down. This time secured it, and it looks much better. I mean, it looks a whole lot better. So really happy with this. So the shelf is gone. Shelf's over here now. Something's going to go here. I just don't know what yet. The laser is directly below me now, behind me. And I have enough room, so I'm kind of cool with this layout. Everything that was over there is going to be something else. I don't know what. Maybe a run to IKEA will resolve that question. But right now, the little Pico tank, the 3-gallon that sits up here in the craft room, that's downstairs on the kitchen counter. So I'm going to have to put that someplace. I don't know if I'm going to take that to work, because that would be kind of cool. Or or there's a freshwater down there that's funky. It's got this fuzzy stuff in it, and I treated it, and it didn't go away. Treated it with the stuff everybody said to use, and that didn't do anything. So I might just pull that freshwater since there's really nothing in there, and maybe move the Pico over there. I don't know. I got a couple options. So I got to play with that. Let's play a little Instagram catch up first. Cherry bomb back here, of course. But I went through, and I'll talk through it a little bit. I went through some changes. Let's see how much. Oops, that just got big. Yeah, we're talking about that right now, Bert. So my tank since the summer trip we took in the RV has been funky. And it's been funky with this weird algae, and there's some bacteria in there. At least that's what it appears to be. And nothing really made that go away, like at all. So I blacked out the tank. I just turned off the lights. And it's in the basement, so it's not like it was receiving a lot of light anyway. Kept them off for 3 days, turned it back on. When I did that, of course, even though there's a whole nother, even though the frag tank is connected to the same water, the display tank stopped taking in alkalinity, and this was before auto alk dosing through, and I'll get to that in a little while, auto alk dosing through the GHL KHD director and doser 2.1. So I got an alk spike, and my nutrients went a little funky. My nitrate went up to 12, which really isn't that bad. It's normally somewhere between, well, it's normally 1 or 2. So it went up to 12. I'd like to keep it 10. That would be my target. Phosphates also jumped a little bit. My assumption is the whatever that crap was that was growing into display released its nutrients, gave it up to the world, and whatever, and it showed up in the tank. So the tank is right now solidly in a period of instability, and I'm trying to reel that thing back in. So sorry, this was the Disney that was living in the frag tank. It started to STN from the base like they like to do. Actually, a piece of the cherry bomb did it too, but I pulled that thing out and cut it off, and cherry bomb turned out to be okay. But the Disney, it didn't make it. So here's a small piece. This was what the last remaining alive piece of that Disney. This was the very last alive section of that Disney. Yesterday it was alive. Polyps seemed okay, but I took a macro of it, and it just looked kind of off. It looked weird. And then this morning it looks like this. I had it in the work tank. I wanted to get it out of the frag tank and dropped it in here, and I woke up this morning, it was totally white. So whatever is happening, and I know I've talked about CO2 absorbent material before, about how I'm not so sure about it, but it just seems like the only difference between like today when I had a live tissue or yesterday, and then today was a period of nighttime, a lower pH, a dip in pH. So if a dip in pH causes or puts corals in a position to be a little more susceptible to disease, whatever that disease may be, whether it be a bacterial infection or whatever, maybe if I raise that nighttime pH, maybe that would eliminate some of these issues. It's just a guess. I really have no understanding of what's going on to cause that STN. And it's not, let me see, real quick. Fragadelic, it wasn't just one coral. It has been multiple corals. So one was a new one from Bryce near me, Doc Lemon's Corals. I have 3 others from him that are in good shape. So far they're okay, and we'll see how they hold up. But maybe I can catch up with Bryce and grab another piece. Incidentally, he went through a similar episode with Tenuous, which that Disney is. So I don't know what it is. It could be a phosphate sensitivity, because I've seen that before in corals. I lost a few pieces, so nothing too devastating. I don't like losing a Disney, and it was a good-sized Disney, but there are others in the frag tank that seem to be doing just fine. So I just need to get in a role where corals aren't dying at night, and I'll feel better. So if I wake up tomorrow and have lost nothing, cool, I'll continue to sleep in fear. But, I just need to put a couple nights together and see how we go. With Fragadelic, I do run a fuge at night. I absolutely have a fuge on off hours, and they overlap a little bit. So, also the skimmer. The skimmer is out of the sump being cleaned. It wasn't working too, so I wasn't bringing in outside air. So that could also be part of the problem, which is why I'm still seeing an 7.8 or 8.0 to 8.4 swing, which is normal for me, or 8.3, somewhere around there. So sand bed wasn't disrupted in the display tank no more than it always is. The engineer goby, which is now like freaking 12 inches, it's a big fish. It's in that tank disturbing the sand bed every single day, so that's nothing new. The only thing new was that blackout. So I don't know. I'll figure it out. Carbonic acid, low pH will... So it's not low, right? I mean, I'm still... Let me look at the swing. Talk amongst yourselves. It's still 7 point... If I'm remembering right, it's 7.8 to 8.3, which is my typical swing. Now, because I'm not bringing in outside air, that has slowly come down. And that's really not that big of a deal. But today I hit 8.4, and I started out at 7.93. So it's not like I have low pH. I've got decent pH. Right? Like, people do all sorts of business that have the pH that I have. But what I'm talking about is maybe is scrunching up that, I don't know, getting the valley and getting the peak a little closer together. So I don't know. If you don't know, I'm dosing calc all the time, 24 hours, nonstop. It's a constant drip, and it never stops. Actually, that's a little bit of a change. I'll talk about that too. And I'm also dosing 2-part. So I don't know. Well, let's talk about that now. So what I did have was a BRS doser, a 1.1. That was, I'm with you now, Bert. It was modified with a DC motor instead of the AC motor that it comes with. And then a speed controller using a pulse width modulation dimmer on a 12-volt power supply, and that worked really well. I was able to just dial in the speed of that doser, and I decided that's dumb, and so I'm not going to do that anymore. Ultimately, what I wanted was a little more than 1.1 ml. I was looking for 1.3, 1.4, so I could maintain close to 1.5, or not 1.5, 0.5 gallons of calc daily. I've since decided that's dumb. One thing that's super cool about the BRS 1.1 pump is that you just take off these two little screws, take the cover off, take the dosing head tubing completely out. You don't have to disconnect anything. I haven't finished my stupid Instagram catch-up, but I'll get there. You don't have to disconnect anything other than, just removing that dosing tubing that's still connected to your in and out. And then putting that in another BRS doser, just stick it right in that thing. So what I did is I took it out of the modified one, put it in the unmodified 1.1, and then I just have that running. So that's my constant drip, and that's less than half a gallon. It should be 0.4 something, 0.43, 0.4, whatever. So that's a constant. So that is. Oh, by the way, this is a Bacardi sliced green apple, or sliced apple. I don't know what they call it. This is a sour apple. It's quite pinky up. It's a little foo-foo, and I like it. Don't judge me. You can judge me. It's okay. I'm a kind of a jerk. So same thing happened with the inappropriate reefer when a pH dipped at night. It caused STN. Maybe. So I've talked with Moki about that. Actually, I was 2 days into my blackout when he started his, and we talk often. He's got a different thing going on. He's got dinos that are just smacking his corals. I think he's on the plus side of that. I think he's going to come out of what he had going on. Actually, if there's a pause, I'll log on. Actually, I can tell you what Moki's freaking pH is because I have his. I won't do it because I'll just talk slowly for a while, but I can look at his Alcatronic. And if you will allow me the opportunity, his pH, I'm looking back to the 27th, and his pH is like 8.04, and the highest it gets, it's very stable. The highest it gets is 8.14, so it only increases 0.1. So he doesn't have a pH instability thing. And he's testing 3 times a day. Is that right? He's testing 3 times a day. And his pH is rock stable. And it's interesting that his pH is that stable. So, yeah, I don't think that's it. It totally could be fragadelic, but he's got dinos going on, which is challenging him a little bit. But Carlos, mini colonies and colonies. Yeah, I hear you, man. When it starts happening, it's whatever. This is an interesting hobby in that we quite haven't figured out. In fact, I don't know that we have. Maybe people have, and I just don't know it. We haven't figured out how to. STN and RTN, they're going to happen until we figure out how to keep them from happening. And what I haven't been able to do is how to, if a coral starts going from the base up, and I cut that thing off instantly and I'm gluing it down, and that really, it seems to be the number of days that it takes to fully kill a coral is the number of days it takes to kill a coral that I've cut. Just whatever, those middle days don't exist because I cut that thing off and whatever. The timer is still going on these things, and they may or may not live. I think I got lucky with the cherry bomb. Green tenuous, it seems fine, so that's interesting. But I don't know. I would. There will come a day when this will no longer be a thing because we will know what to do and we'll know how to treat it or we'll know how to avoid it altogether. And I welcome that day. That'll be good. Carlos, Lynn, let me get in on that. Lynn, I'll pay half the shipping if you're interested. Carlos, if you'll allow me, I would appreciate that. Fragile. In the freshwater world, they do a siesta light schedule to maximize CO2 in low-tech tanks, something like that. Spreading the dosing may help reduce pH swings, something like that, and spreading the dosing. All right, so I mentioned it, but calc is constant. I'm a firm believer of calc out of ATO. I don't believe calc should ever be an ATO. I think that's too unstable. It can, lead to instability. And then also a constant doser. So I'll see comments of people wanting to dose like calc at night just to raise pH. I disagree with that because you're going to artificially raise the alkalinity at night, causing alkalinity swings. So potentially lower during the day, especially if there's higher alk uptake during the day when the lights are on. And then you're going to dose your kalkwasser at night to raise your pH, but you're also raising your alkalinity. So I disagree with that. Maybe that works for people. It just doesn't feel stable. So, and then we already talked about that I run a reverse cycle fuge light and a separate fuge. That's a 5-gallon tank. And then that water flows down into... That's interesting. I wonder if it has something to do with the fuge. It shouldn't, but maybe it does. Bert, you won't believe I'm using what I'm against. Vibrant for bubble algae. Small dose. Bert, don't tell anybody, but this is OMI. I hate that stuff. But it totally works on bubble algae, and I'm using it in the work tank because it had some magnificent, glorious bubble algae. And I was like, all right, 20 drops every Wednesday. So a hump day vibrant dose. That's how I'm rolling. And it's working. I'm keeping an eye on the bird's nest in there. In the past, that thing took a beating. Whatever. A lot of people have luck. Who was it? Richmond Reefer swears by it. I think his tank totally supports the use of it. That kind of thing. I think it comes down to the tank. In this particular case, this round, I think this is the third time I've tried it in the work tank, and it's working. I don't know. Your mileage may vary. It may just work perfectly for you. In the past, it hasn't for me, but so far I'm doing okay. I think... Got to be careful because I've always avoided dinos. Yeah, dinos kind of suck. Tavidix. Let's see. I broke down and used Vibrant and BioQ the other week. Yeah, man. It does work against bubble algae. Just in the past, I've had coral death. It conflicts with something in my tank, either the bacteria battling it out or something like that. And I just... I don't want to have it in the tank, but I'm using it again, and so far it's working out okay. I've got thoughts on STN, RTN, only new hacker that already had it. Interesting. I'm down to take in any opinions on RTN and STN. I'm not a chemist, and I am not a biologist, and I'm just some fool with some interesting tools, but I'm always down to have a discussion about a way to save a coral in a reefer's tank, to include my own. And this end dude like Bryce, right? Bryce got this huge, beautiful tank full of these amazing corals, and it just dies. And I was like, what? So I took him stuff, I think, and that's one of the reasons why I enjoy having local reefers like we do here, is that I can take them pieces, and their pieces will survive. And when I'm an idiot and do something wrong and kill all the corals I have in my tank, I'll ask nicely, hopefully I've treated them well, these people well, and I can get a couple of those pieces back, maybe at a small fee. Lynn, it's okay. I was just gonna let that message ride. Don't worry about hiding or unhiding. No worries. It just rolled through. Tavidix, how do I say it? Tavidix. He expressed that Vibrant works well. Thick skin keeps RTN and STN away. Higher nutrients help with thicker, healthier skin. Noted. I will check my phosphates. I'm also gonna. I don't know. I might kill aminos. I just might let the tank ride without aminos for a while and just see how it reacts. Sometimes I need thicker skin, you know what I'm saying? You would think with all the nutrients, Chick-fil-A, that my skin would be thicker. Or, I would be able to use that thick skin to not get irritated. Taking a note, sorry. Jeremy Phillips, what's up? I've heard that some people believe STN RTN may have something to do with elevated phosphate nitrates related to ALK. This is true. I believe that. I don't believe that to be related to, historically, I haven't seen that be an RTN or STN event. I have seen that be coral lightning. So lower nutrients. Actually, this was a Fish of Hex thing, a Travis thing. Lower nutrients, higher alkalinity, and then loss of color with corals. So I totally get that. Right now I'm running at 8.2 last test. So I'm not really running higher alkalinity. And my nutrients, last I checked, were 12 nitrates and 0.12 maybe phosphates. A little higher than I'd like to see it, but 0.12 I think is what it was. Real quick, back to... Yeah. Pour one out. Cheers to your homie, the Disney. That's a nice picture, though, with the clown in the background. I mean, the focus is wonderful. That's the new camera. That's a 6. It's an older one. Look, if you're looking for a camera for reefing, go find, you don't need the latest and greatest, go find an older 6000 series Sony. They're awesome. I talked about working up here a little bit. This is Leo. Leo is very helpful. He's very inquisitive. He likes watching what I'm doing. And he helps with the floor. So this was the floor relayed. This was the old floor that I was picking up. And that's all done. It looks pretty good up here. I'm looking forward to getting the rest of the third floor done. Got to be happy. Happy times. I talked about the work tank that I moved it downstairs, sitting on the kitchen counter. Not the work tank, the Pico that sits up here. I called this sunscreen earlier today, but I need to clean this thing. It's looking a little sloppy. But this is one of the NEM that I have in my frag tank is one of the red bubble tips from Inappropriate Reefer from Moki. And that split. So I grabbed the split and put it in this little tank. And that's a 3-gallon tank. And that tank works well. 2 clowns in there. I've got a leather in there. I have a chalice. I got a Pink Floyd in there that just keeps growing. It's getting smacked by an Aptasia, so they battle it out a little bit. But, that's a 3-gallon tank. This is nothing. This costs like no money at all. That's a NanoBox light over top of it. Totally recommend that light for this size tank. That light is actually pretty cool. It's interesting, and the app is interesting, but whatever. If you need a little baby light, I kind of recommend it. I like it. You know what? I haven't tested that, and I should. This, I don't know which is which. I think this one's mine, and this one's Mighty Nano Tank, but I don't care because this one's bigger, so now this one's Mighty Nano Tanks. This thing's got green and purple in it. I don't look at this. This is in the very back of the tank, and actually this one's crawling off its mount because an Aptasia is pissing it off. But I thought this Jawbreaker was kind of pretty with that green and that fun in there. I will catch up. Actually, I'm going to catch up now. Clown hate to Disney. You know, it's so interesting how fast that tissue. So the way that coral died. It slowly came up from the bottom, like you would expect in that kind of event. But it was tissue and polyps. And then when I woke up the next morning, bone white, nothing. I don't know. That feels like an STN with a rapid overnight. Pisses me off. I don't know what's going on. Your problem is more dialing in your alk with the Trident. Yeah, Carlos, I get that. Do you do any manual testing with the Trident? Because even though I've started using the KH Director, which we're going to talk about today, I still manually test on the weekends like I always did. I never tested alk daily, only if I was changing something. I would test on the weekends, and I'm still doing that as to verify with the reagents that I have, and I've got multiple bottles of reagents to double check that with a Hannah. I still, it's one of those trust but verify things. Jeremy Phillips, I'm sure we all wish we could figure out the relationship between alk and phosphate, of course. Yeah, I think it's instability, Jeremy. So you can have, if your tank is used to it, if it sits there for a long time and it's comfortable, at least 3 months, right? That's what I've seen. If you allow your tank to chill in a stable environment for 3 months, it becomes happy. Any change I make, I really don't realize the impact of that change for 3 months. So it kind of sucks. This is whatever. It's a slow-moving, snail's pace, kind of take a nap hobby. You know what I mean? But I think it's the impact of the change that is more detrimental than the direct relationships between them all. But what the hell do I know? Hey, Robert. KH Guardian's been doing great, very stable. That's awesome. Lynn. Wait, I missed something. Seth. I've had the same issue with the KH Director. It will be stable for a few days and jump around. Seth, that's interesting. I don't have that issue. So let's talk about that in a minute. Thanks, Pint Snob. Yeah, I like expensive stuff, and I like cheap stuff. Kind of how I roll. Hey, bro. I already said Robert. Let's see. Keep your windows open. pH is over 8.3. Totally. I always recommend bringing in outside air to your skimmer if you can. It does have a positive impact. Manually test as well to verify. Yeah, totally. All right, future testing. I've owed this for a while, but this is that old school Aquanite when Moki was building that $146 budget. Right, this light's like $70 or less. I bought one of these to play with it just to see what it's like. And I owe some testing with this. And then this has been requested a couple times, but a very kind young lady in New Jersey is going to send me that. Has already sent it. Actually, it could arrive any day. I'm excited to test this light because the price is freaking reasonable, right? That gets you the light. That probably doesn't get you a mount, right? But it's $150-ish. That looks a little Kesselish or Red Sea to me. So I'm looking forward to understanding the spectrum of this light, what kind of par this thing's putting out, what kind of wattage it's pulling, and then the spread. We'll do all that testing. So I'll do that on both of these lights. This one has been requested quite a bit, and I should have just bought it, but I have this habit of buying lights, and then they just sit in my garage for like no reason because I don't have anywhere to put them. So what I should do is sell them cheap. I bought it, used it, tested it. Here's a little cost savings. What's up, Algae Wire? And maybe that's something I should do. Let me know. Give me your thoughts on that. I could do that. Recoup a little bit of the money, but still somebody ends up with a decent light with settings that they know will work. Yeah, K7. I think that's the only thing I'm going to be testing in terms of fixtures. Keep an eye out there. Let me know what you see, especially if it's on Amazon. That makes it a little easier for me if I decide not to keep it. But let me know what you see. If there's something out there that you haven't seen tested, right? BRS did a great job of testing all the mainstream lights and a couple of outliers, a couple of not necessarily top shelf lights, but if you see things out there that you would like me to test, I'm still interested in doing that. You know what? I wonder where all that stuff went after I moved it out of this craft room. I'm going to have to go find it. I need that my 24 by 24 grid for testing. I took apart my cage director before I even hooked it up because I wanted to see how that thing worked. But I caught it too late. Trusting the Trident was my big mistake, going back and forth with Neptune. That's too bad. That thing should work, and it should work well. That's unfortunate. I know you mentioned it. That's unfortunate. All right, the thing should work. It's been around for a while, almost 2 years. We spent a lot of time in development, and it should work. I would expect Neptune to ask for it back for them to test it, that kind of thing. Maybe that's not happening, and that would be unfortunate. It could be my Jabo doser crapping out. It does seem to keep its calibration between tests. It's also 5 years old. Seth. Hold on, I'm scrolling. Yeah, you have to manually test. And I saw that every Saturday, Carlos. So, Seth, you got a cage director. And you're using a Jabo to dose 2-part? What's that noise? Interesting. I heard something like water dripping. That would be unfortunate. What's up, Jake? I wouldn't use a Jabo doser for anything mission critical. I would use it for stupid things like aminos, because if that gets stuck on, that's not going to kill your tank. I don't know that I'd use it for 2-part. In fact, I know I wouldn't use it for 2-part. The controller seems complicated. The controller on this light seems complicated? Probably. That's why I like the stupid, simple 2-channel. You just turn it up, turn it down, that kind of thing. That makes lights easy. Or which is very, very similar to how Kessel does it, right? Very simple controls. It doesn't need to be complicated. Yeah, we'll see how this light. I don't know. I look forward to using this. Oh, Bert, we can let that one go because that's funny. Oh, Mr. or Mrs. or Ms. Alvarez, phonetically spell out your name so I know how to say that name because I'm dumb and I can't figure that out. Don't say it's as simple as Carrie. I don't want to know that. I guess it could be. Robert, I have not tested the currents. I don't think I have tested any currents. I've used Current USA's dimmer on reef brights, and that works perfect. But I have not tested any of their lights. Neptune has been a nightmare for me. Also, Jake, they keep asking for pictures and more pictures. Oh, that's legit, because when I had to get an RMA for my Apex EL, the BRS one that crapped out, it took a month of back and forth before they said, oh, yeah, it's bad. I'm like, no kidding, it's bad. It just sits there and then reboots and reboots and reboots and reboots and reboots and reboots and then connects. And then reboots and reboots and reboots. Yes, it's not functioning well. It's not my house. It's not my Wi-Fi. It's not anything. It's your box. Fix your goofy little orange box. They sent me another one. Well, BRS sent me a used one. That's a story. That kind of pissed me off. What are they going to do? Didn't have it in stock. Could have sent me a regular EL. Sent me a used one. Seth G, I got the cage director for the new tank, which is up and running now. New doser has been on the list for thing. Yeah. Seth, I got one cheap. I won't tell you how cheap, but I got one cheap. Retail. For whatever reason, there was one in stock at a ridiculously low price, so I bought it. Not directly from GHL. All right. So, Noobs control similar to mass spec lights, nothing out of this world. Yep. Had a horrible experience between Neptune. I'm a dude. K. Got it. See? I had to ask. I don't want to be a jerk and say a dude when you're a chick. That wouldn't be cool. Gotta ask. K. Got it. I appreciate that, K. Whatever. It's cool. I'm glad it's coming, and I get to play with it. And I'm looking forward to actually, if you're on Instagram, send me your settings. Let me know how you run that light, because I have no experience with it, so I have no idea how people use that thing. So if you want to share, send it to me. I'm more than happy to see the data. How you run that thing. Back to Cage Director, real quick. Here's how I'm running it. I already said I popped the top. I watched how it works. I understand its operation completely. Totally simple. Inside the box is maintainable stuff. So let's walk through it. It pumps in tank water, runs a recirculation pump to clean out the sample vessel, drains that water out. That's about 22 milliliters based on how I have mine set up to test. I don't know if that's a constant, but I could just tell you how mine's testing. I take a 50 milliliter sample, so after that rinse is drained, the 50 mil sample is pulled from the frag tank. And then the recirculation pump inside the cage director starts running. And all it does is keeps that water moving as the cage director starts injecting its reagent. And it does that injection incredibly slowly, because the pH probe that's chilling in that sample chamber is looking for a pH change to a specific level. Once the pH reaches that specific level, the cage director knows how much, because I've calibrated the doser, how much reagent it has injected into that sample to reach that. So it knows its start pH, it knows its end pH, and it knows how much reagent it has injected. From that, it can calculate or extrapolate the alkalinity. And it's spot on. I'm pretty impressed. I look forward to seeing how maybe it changes over time as the pH probe requires calibration. It's simple to drain that chamber. That chamber's dry at the end of every test anyway, but that chamber drains. You pull the pH probe out. You could do some verifications to make sure it's still reading correctly. But it's totally simple operation. Totally easy to pop the top on a KH director. You don't need a controller to run a KH director if you get the standalone doser. Something to keep in mind. If you don't need a controller, then you don't need a controller. If you get a standalone doser, KH director, the standalone doser can then also control other dosers from GHL. So your doser, you have pH. If you're not worried about temp, that kind of stuff, if you're using an Inkbird, then do you really need a controller if you already have pH and temperature with another device? I'd argue no. So just think about that. No controller required. And then when the testing is done, that sample container inside the KH director is emptied into a drain container in my tank, or underneath my tank. The pH of that fluid, that sampled fluid, is below 5. I could probably pretty easily balance that pH with a minor injection with another pump. So if I timed it with every test, then I could neutralize the pH of that fluid. And as it's dumped into if I chose to do this, as that sample is dumped into my sump, I could counteract that pH with like baking soda to neutralize it and maybe not impact the tank all that much. So theoretically, you could pull your sample and put your sample right back in the tank. You could do that without neutralizing, or maybe you could do it with neutralizing. Right now, I have it go into a waste container. On my auto water change, what I have done is, instead of equal parts coming out and going in, I have the amount that comes out, and then I have the amount that goes in plus 70 milliliters to make up the difference for my sample. And that auto water change is constant throughout the day. So I'm constantly, even though I'm out testing 4 times a day, my auto water change is constantly adding that extra water to make up what I have taken out with my tests. I could still hear it, Bert. I don't know what it is. Sounds like a clock, or it's dripping water. I don't know what it is. Or a bird's nest colony in the new tank with absolutely no testing and dosing, and that thing has doubled in 2 months. Show off. You guys, you don't hear it. This is the weirdest stream ever, don't you think? All right, questions about the KH director. Let me know. Hit me up. Throw me something on Instagram. I'm happy to talk you through it. That recirculation pump, I found it on AliExpress, so I've already bought one, so I have the spare pump if I need it. And Bert should get paid. Bert's funny. You're hanging around longer today, Bert. We could put him in timeout. Don't do that. I'm excited to see that pump show up, and I'll have that thing as a spare. So I think the pros of a KH director is it uses a GHL Doser 2.1 as its pumps. right? So it has that internal recirculation pump, which is not that big of a deal. I really want to see how the Trident mixes the sample. That's something that would be interesting to see. But I mean, the cage director makes it super simple because those pump heads are replaceable. They're right in front of your face. You don't have to dig for them. You don't have to take anything apart to replace the tubing or the rollers or whatever. You can buy a whole assembly or you can buy the parts, and it's easy to replace. Like that number one pump on that doser runs a whole lot because it's bringing in water from the tank. The sample, the waste runs a whole lot. So those will require maintenance. The one in the middle, the one that handles the reagent, that's not going to require a lot of maintenance because it runs super, super slowly with the reagent. So, the benefit of the KH director and the associated doser is that it's just super simple to maintain. I think that's a big difference between some of these other units on the market. Then there's the whole auto dosing. So I ran the KH director for a week. I was like, yep, I'm cool. So I flipped on automatic control of alkalinity and calcium dosing based on my results from the KH director. Assuming I have balanced ions and that my calcium and alkalinity are at a mathematically balanced point in the tank, then theoretically, if I have an alkalinity uptake drop, then I should also drop my calcium to match, right? That's how I'm looking at it. Both alkalinity and calcium are controlled by, I should do that with the Red Sea trace color, shouldn't I? Since that's based on calcium uptake. Welcome to my brain. So if alkalinity drops for whatever reason, me being stupid, blackout, problems in the tank, whatever, the KH director is going to test. Its target is 8. I have set the doser automatic control to 50%. So that doser is allowed to adjust up and down 50% of the set dose. So you have a set daily dose, and GHL recommends that you have a stable tank when you start this activity. So tank was stable, and I turned that on. Here's what I was dosing before the KH director. Here's my 50% band of adjustability, plus or minus, and I set it loose. And it decides how much to dose in the tank based on the results. And I'm testing 4 times a day. So daytime, nighttime, 4 times. And so far I'm cool with it. Cue balls. Hey, Jim, is there one coral that you just can't get to grow? I'm not that good with zoas. Zoas have always been a big pain in the butt for me. To grow. Okay. Yeah, cue ball, I'm just going to go ahead and say zoas. I think that's the big one. Mushrooms don't do all that well in my tank. SPS do well. Acros do well. But softies don't seem to, and I don't know why. What's up, Cam? Jake Birch, my ICP was 8. So, hey, real quick, talking about ICP. ICP, although you had a pretty good result there, Carlos, ICP and Hannah, I don't trust ICP results versus real time. Also, Hannah has a plus or minus 5% error. So I would suggest using ICP only for trending. You take that sample sits in that tube, and it sits in that tube for, who knows, maybe a week. The water inside that container is absolutely changing. The most accurate way to get an ICP is take a sample and ICP it immediately. And we can't do that, right? Most of us can't do that. So ICP for trending, and then HANA or other real-time testing as your day-to-day, that kind of thing. But I wouldn't compare ICP to home tests just because of that time on test or that time in transit, right? The water's sitting in a container for a while. K, GHL or KH Guardian. I'm going to say GHL, and I don't have any experience with KH Guardian. That's a Lin thing. What I'm looking for out of automatic alkalinity testing is maybe a little more than just a number. I don't know control aspect of a KH Guardian. I don't know if you can use a KH Guardian to drive something else. If you can, that's awesome. I just don't have the experience, so I can't speak to it. If it was GHL versus Alcatronic, that's a tough one because the Alcatronic is a proven machine and it's been around for a while and it has maybe a little more legs underneath it, but it is also more expensive than a GHL slave dose or a standalone doser and a KH director. So that comes down to what you want to do with your KH results. What do you want to do with it? I don't have an Alcatronic also, so I really can't speak to that. I know Moki's and I have access to his data, and it seems very consistent. It works well. It gives you warnings when it's time to change the tubing, when it's time to calibrate the pumps. I think that's fantastic. But I've not personally used the KH Guardian or the Alcatronic, so you gotta go ask the others who have. My 3 weeks in, not even a month, GHL opinion is positive. Hit me up in 6 months, and I'll have more information. Certainly have more experience with it. I'm still new with it, right? Yeah, Bert, but you haven't killed that Disney frag, so you got that going for you. Beach bums, similar Monties like that. Lynn, you're mentioning that. They seem to be lower light for me. Sorry, catching up. What'd I miss? Zoas grow on their own. Zoas do not grow on their own. I can tell you that right now. Why do people have fancy booze shaker uppers? When you get one of these Yetis, these things make fantastic booze mixers. With the cup and the thing from cocktail or whatever. I don't know why you need that. Zoas don't grow on their own in my tank. Some do, some don't. I haven't killed any Zoas lately, so I got that going for me. Passion fruit Monty. That's just started to grow after 6 months of nothing. Yeah. Corals suck. Right? Salifert. Yeah, I've got Salifert for Justin. I use them for a couple of other. I use it for magnesium, calcium. Yeah, just those two. And they're great. That makes it really easy. But I would not use the Salifert for alkalinity. I'll tell you that. That's HANA. If you're not using an auto tester, HANA all day long. My water is too clean. I agree. So, see, here's B. B showing off. Then, see, that's the right way to do an ICP. Take your sample, run over there, wait for the results, boom. That's legit. That's an awesome resource. Would the time on ICP tests alter trace and metals too? It can alter, it can change that sample. I don't know how to, maybe B, you could do this for us, is take a sample and let it sit in your freaking family room for a week. And then take a sample. That same time you took that first sample, take a second sample, take it over to the ICP facility. And then that one that sat in your house for a week, take that over a week later and run those tests and see the difference between those results. But yes, there is a chance that that water can change in transit. There you go. KH Guardian can dose alkalinity. If I'm sure you know how much it's dosing, and if you know how much alkalinity the KH Guardian is dosing, then you can absolutely do the same with calcium. So that makes it easier. Out of another pump, right? No, that's cool. That works too. Alkatronic, but was considering GHL. I think the Guardian is less expensive. The Alkatronic is the most expensive, and GHL's in the middle. 8.6, Trident is 8.1, sulfur, calcium. That's a little bit of a difference. Can't seem to grow bird's nests or acros, cue balls. Monty and other SPS are growing just fine, but the damn bird's nest bleach out no matter where I put it. I have bird's nest in my tank that just grows. It grows in the shade. It's damn near in the dark, and it's okay. Forgot to add the comment, a margin of error. You're right. Yeah, I'm with you on the Hannah, Carlos. I'm super comfortable with the Hannah, and assuming, except for the reagents can, I think it's me, right? I think if you keep the reagent pristine, awesome. But if you happen to take that syringe that you stick into the reagent to pull out 1 mil? If that is compromised, if it isn't sterile, if you've got some bacteria, if you've got some funky on there and that gets into the reagent, then that reagent is toast. And I've now twice had reagents provide wrong results because I get a questionable result and I pull out a brand new reagent and I test that with a new syringe and the result is as I would expect it to be. I think you got to keep your reagent clean. That's my only beef with a Hannah. Other than that, I mean, I'm comfortable with that margin of error, right? I'm in a, whatever. This is a hobby. I'm in my house. I'm not testing with precision equipment for the most part. So I'm comfortable with that margin of error. Yeah, I would use, it'd be interesting to, I don't know. That's too bad. That's too bad. It's frustrating that Neptune challenges their users instead of going, they should do it right? BRS really pushes Apex, really pushes Neptune stuff. BRS has awesome customer service. BRS should mention that to Neptune, because if Neptune handled their customers like BRS does, like I know me and other people have been treated that way by GHL, then I think they would be doing a little better. Oh, Bert. Claims precision. It is not precision. I don't believe, I mean, GHL is nailing it as far as I'm concerned. I don't call that a precise device, right? That's not a precision instrument. It's still a hobby-grade instrument with a whole lot of time put into it to make sure it's good, but it's still a hobby. It's still a hobby piece. If you look at some of these other alkalinity testers that use the same method, they are absolutely more expensive. I don't know that they'd be more precise than a KH Director or a Trident or a KH Guardian or an Alkatronic. I don't know, but they certainly are more expensive. You can look those up. Oh, calling me out, mother. What? How come I have to have Tom Cruise in that stupid cocktail movie with the shaker thingy and the spin it around thingy when I can do it with this and it doesn't spill. This is nice. Yeti's not cheap. How is this classless? Ugh. All that attitude after you got a couple cool birds for Christmas. Disappointed. Not really. Disappointed. Not really. Cherry bounce moonshine time. I don't know what that means, but it sounds magnificent and fancy. Hi, Finn. How's Germany? You get snow yet? Because we really haven't. We had a little bit. I see Pete more as like... Yeah, totally agree, Carlos. I think it's awesome for giving you the data that you can't necessarily get from a home test, and it's also awesome, really, really awesome, if you send it to the same ICP place for trending. I think that's where it matters. I don't trust Salivert. See, I do. Not for nitrate, though. Bird's nest hardy. Some bird's nest, whatever. I lost my bird's nest. That kind of sucked. Just Rico's aquarium is live in his channel. Yeah, Rico has his way, Justin. Right? I mean, whatever. I'm not going to talk about it. He has his way. Would 007 use a Yeti if he was riding in a boat and it was bumped? Oh, shit. It spilled a little. So much for that idea. Wait, let me close it. If he's riding in a boat and he doesn't want to spill while he's mixing, he would. So much for that Dubbo. Damn it. Yeah. I hear you, Carlos. Robert and Mother, knock it off. It took Neptune a month to give me a new Selenium probe that didn't work out right out of that box. Jake, that's the move. It always seems to take about it always takes about a month. I think if we're focusing on the vessel, I think if we're focusing on the shaker vessel, then we've lost sight of the goal. My hand's sticky from my foo-foo now. Damn it. Well, thanks, Mother. I love you too. That's one way, Jake. I like that. I told them if I send anything, it will be everything, and I want a refund. They can keep it. Perfect. No snow. That's too bad. I like Germany. I miss going to Germany. What are those cool little mushrooms? I like those mushrooms. I made those here. I found them in Costco. And what's it? Is spagel? Is that the white asparagus? That stuff. I like that too. All right. I'm talking about white asparagus. I'm a little over an hour in. I have absolutely tried to have Jim back. I have absolutely talked about everything I wanted to talk about. If anybody has any questions real quick, feel free to throw them out, and I will address. Again, looking forward to testing a couple lights. Haven't done that in a bit. This room is now almost cleaned up enough for me to pull that off. You can see the mess that I have back here. I really need to go through my crap and clean. I appreciate that, Robert. I got to get this place organized a little bit. Give me a little workspace. Somebody hit me up for those little I make little acrylic plates and send them out to people. They are made out of scrap acrylic. So I'm not charging anybody other than shipping for these little things, but they sit in here, and it allows you to use this light that's intended for a rimless tank. With the acrylic plates, you can use that on a rimmed tank. You may remember many, many moons ago, Moki put a piece of wood in here on his tank, and it cracked the glass because the wood swelled. Don't do that. Use acrylic. And if you need acrylic, hit me up. I'll send you acrylic, and it's only going to cost you shipping and a shout out, if that's cool. Thank you, Robert. That's very kind of you. All right, y'all. Carlos, I hope you get through your ordeal well. That sucks. When it's time to go GHL or whichever direction you go, if it's something I've used, I'm more than happy to talk about it. But I'm pretty sure you have decent contacts all over the place that would help you out. Other than that, I guess that's it. I hope everybody's doing well. As always, I hope your families are well. I still feel the same that I did the middle of last year. Keep your head down. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Oh, wait. Oh, of course you're going to hit me up, Jake. I was just wrapping it up, bruh. I'll hit you up. I think I'm about ready to go. I've only been saying that for a year. Would love to see your setup for calc system if you can do that in a stream sometime. B, I did that. Maybe I didn't. No, I did. Real quick, it's a big container. It's a 5-gallon container. I scoop in 9 teaspoons fresh water, and I shake it up, and I dose from that container until it's empty or almost empty. But hit me up, and I can talk about it. I can share more information if you need more. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Algae Warrior. Thank you, Carlos. I already said thank you, but thanks again, Robert. Bahama Llama with your 10,000. Congratulations, sir. Yep, I'm just wrapping it up. I'm going to run downstairs. So, like I said, please keep your head down. Thank you, Jake. That's very nice of you. That's too kind. Be well. Happy reefing. And be kind, everyone. Thanks. Now you can talk amongst yourself while I navigate over to this button over here to end the stream. Deuces.